patience while we continue to let people into the meeting. I would like to just make one announcement. If there's anyone who is standing, although it looks like everyone is sitting now, please find a seat. And if there's no available seats, please make your way to the cafeteria for the overflow room. So good evening and welcome to the Bellingham Springtown meeting on May the 27th, 2026. It is good to see everyone again. Thank you for coming out. My name is John Keeler and I will be your moderator this evening. I now call this meeting to order. A few introductions are in order to start. The Select Board is seated to my right: Chair Michael Hennessy, Ann Odebashian, Don Martinez, Jen Altamonte, and Cody Spencer. They are joined by our Town Administrator, Joe Layden, and our Interim Chief Financial Officer, Chris Correa. Next up is the Finance Committee, chaired by John Allum, Vice Chair Joe Calamati, and the other members, followed by Town Council Lauren Goldberg and our Town Clerk, Amy Bartoloni. For those of you who are attending town meeting for the first time, town meeting is the town's legislative body, and you, the voters, are its legislators. I thank you for taking the time to participate in this very important part of the town's democratic process. I'd like to start by asking Select Board Chair Hennessy to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. If you are able, please rise and remove your hat.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would also like to take just a brief moment of silence in memory of our former town officials who have passed away since our last town meeting. Former Town Administrator Dennis Frayne, Board of Registrars and Historical Commission Bruce William Lord, Planning Board Member Patricia Murphy, and Board of Library Trustees Ken Hamway. Thank you. Now it's time to turn to the business of the meeting. Tonight we'll be voting using our electronic devices. You all should have received one when you walked in. If you did not receive one, please raise your hand and a teller will be around to assist you. I would now like to call up our Town Clerk, Amy Bartoloni, for a quick refresher on how the electronic voting devices work.
Okay, real quick, because I know there's a lot of you that haven't been to town meeting before. We're going to be using the Easy Vote electronic system. They were approved in the November 2020 town meeting as an acceptable means of voting in Bellingham. Each registered voter should have received one. When the voting is over, my tellers will be at the exits. Please deposit them in the exits. We don't want to lose any. To turn it on, you're going to press that button on the top that looks like a little paper airplane. When it's time to vote, the screen up here will show the question, and Karen, our IT person, will tell us that it's time to vote. You have 15 seconds to vote. To vote yes, you're going to hit that green button that says 1. To vote no, you're going to hit the red button that says 2. An OK will appear on your keypad to confirm your vote. You're able to change your mind until the time runs out, so please be mindful as the timer, as the last vote you take when the time runs out is the one that stands. And if for some reason that your clicker is not working, you're going to see my tellers at the door. And I think we're ready for test questions now, Karen? So our first test question is, have you used the electronic clicker voting system at town meeting before? So you're going to say, if you have used it before, you're going to hit the 1 button, the green button that says yes. If you have not, you're going to hit the red button that says no. Ready? Okay, you have 15 seconds to vote. Okay, so that is 339 that hasn't used it, and 290 that have used it before. Okay, and just an amendment here. We do have an overflow room. That overflow room is going to be a hand count. So the clicker system works in here. When we vote on the actual articles, we will get the vote for the clicker system. Our moderator has a walkie-talkie for the other room. They will be hand counting and adding that to the hand count. So for the second question, go ahead, Karen. Have you lived in Bellingham for more than 10 years? If you have, you're going to click the green button that says yes. If you have not, you're going to hit the red button that says no. Ready? Okay, go ahead. You have 15 seconds to vote. Okay, so we have a lot of longtime residents here. So 534 yes and 88 no. So I'm going to hand it back over to John, our town moderator.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. To briefly review, my responsibilities as town moderator include presiding over and regulating the proceedings, deciding all questions of order, declaring votes, and granting leave to address the meeting. To ensure that we have an orderly meeting and that people who want to speak are able to do so, permission of the moderator is required to address the meeting. If you wish to speak on a motion, please come to one of the 4 microphones, 2 located in the front and 2 located in the back of the auditorium, and please wait to be recognized by me. When you are asked to be recognized, please state your name and your street address. Please do not touch the microphones, and if they need to be adjusted, Marie Fort, our BHS Fine Arts Department head, can assist you. If you are in a wheelchair and need the microphone to be lowered, she can also help with that. If you are not able to physically get to the microphone, please raise your hand if you would like to speak and wait to be recognized by me. Ms. Fort will then bring a microphone to you when you are recognized. Please be aware that we do expect more public comments than normal this evening, so please be patient with the microphones, the sound systems, and volunteers like Ms. Fort who are here to assist us all. A reminder that while spirited debate is always welcome, being cordial and respectful is a priority for the efficiency of the meeting. We are here today with our friends and our neighbors. Every person who rises to debate a motion has an equal right to be heard, and we want everyone to feel comfortable participating in the meeting, sharing their opinions, and asking questions. As such, at this meeting, people should refrain from making remarks that are of a personal nature, whether towards an elected or appointed official, town staff, or any of your fellow voters. Any comments or questions must be directed to me. Town meeting is not a forum for cross-examination of the presenters or any other speaker. Similarly, it is not a debate. Should a question arise, as appropriate, I will ask a specific town official to address the question and answer. Applauding, cheering, or for that matter, booing a speaker's remarks only disrupts and delays the meeting. Disorderly conduct is grounds for removal from the meeting after a warning, but I trust that that will not be necessary tonight. I will assume the meeting is comfortable with allowing the following people to speak if called upon: our town administrator, department heads, the superintendent of schools, and town council to speak when in my discretion they have relevant information and after being recognized by me. If any other non-resident wishes to speak on a particular matter, they may request to do so through the moderator, and if I deem the request appropriate and the potential input informative, I may authorize the speaker or ask town meeting to vote on the request. After careful consideration, I published a list of additional rules for the conduct of the meeting. These rules will ensure that the meeting is orderly, that everyone gets a say, and that we keep the meeting moving. The rules include the following. Presentations will be limited to no more than 10 minutes without approval from the meeting to extend. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, and no voter will be recognized to speak a second time on any article unless no other speakers are at the microphone. Motions to amend and motions offered in place of a motion to pass over must be in writing. We can help you with that up at the front here. There are a bunch of clipboards and slips. Please fill that out if you would like to write a motion for that. Reconsideration will be allowed only one time per article and will be approved by a majority vote. I will describe the consent calendar when we get to that part of the meeting. Can I ask for a motion to adopt these rules?
Second.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. While we can debate these rules, I prefer that we give them a try for this meeting, and then we can revise as appropriate based on what happens at this meeting. Are we ready for a vote? Yes. I'm going to try to take this by a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The rules will be adopted for this meeting. I apologize, I made a move too quickly. We are waiting for the overflow room's vote on this as well. The overflow room also voted yes, so these rules will be adopted. Okay. For this meeting, the warrant before us today presents 32 articles. Each article and the Finance Committee's recommendations on these articles appear in the booklet entitled Report and Recommendations of the Finance Committee. In order for town meeting to take action on an article, a motion putting the matter to the floor of town meeting must be made and seconded. Pursuant to our bylaws, we must also hear from the Finance Committee or other appropriate boards concerning its recommendation. If there is additional information to be presented by the town, I will ask them to speak on that motion. At that point, we will move to debate, take any questions, comments, or proposed amendments to the motion, and if appropriate, I will ask certain town personnel to answer the questions. When it appears there are no further comments, we will move to a vote. Before we open voting, I will clarify what we are voting on and indicate the quantum of vote required to approve the article. I also want to briefly review the use of a motion to move the question. When this motion is made and seconded, it will immediately end debate, regardless of how many additional speakers are standing at the microphone. The motion, however, requires a 2/3 vote to pass. If the motion to move the question is approved, we will move directly to the vote on the article, and no more debate will be permitted. If the motion to move the question fails, we will return to debate. Remember that a voter who wishes to move the question cannot first comment, question, or otherwise make a statement. If they do, the motion will be found out of order, and they will need to get back in line if they wish to make a motion to move the question. It looks like we are now ready to begin, and as is our tradition, I will now ask the town clerk to come up. As is our tradition, I will now ask the town clerk to come up and begin reading the warrant.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Bellingham, warrant for annual spring town meeting. Norfolk. To either of the constables of the Town of Bellingham and the County of Norfolk, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town, qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs, to meet at the high school auditorium located at 60 Blackstone Street.
Can I invite a motion to dispense with the reading of the remainder of the warrant? Is there a second?
Second.
We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we will dispense with the reading of the remainder of the warrant. My apologies again, the overflow room. The cafeteria also votes in the affirmative, so we will dispense with the reading of the remainder. Moving to the warrant for today, we will start with the consent calendar, where we will vote on two kinds of articles, some which are merely routine and where the town typically has little to no debate, and some which will be passed over. I have listed the consent calendar articles and the information to voters. To make most efficient use of our time, we will take one vote to approve Articles 7, 8, 9, and 10, and to also pass over Articles 12, 13, 14, 15, 27, and 31. And as you guys are reviewing that, I would like to invite a motion to approve Articles 7 through 10 as printed in the warrant, and to pass over Articles 12, 23, 14, 15, 27, and 31. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So to repeat, the motion is to approve Articles 7, 8, 9, and 10 as printed in the warrant, and to pass over Articles 12, 13, 14, 15, 27, and 31. I'll give you all another brief minute to look these over. in relation to this motion, is there a recommendation by the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Thank you. To make sure everyone once again understands, Articles 7 through 10 are routine articles that the Select Board and Finance Committee recommend, and the remaining articles are recommended no action by the Select Board and Finance Committee. For the no action articles, there is simply nothing for town meeting to act on this evening, which is why they are being passed over. Now that we have a motion on the floor, I will read out the numbers of each article in the consent calendar again. If you would like to ask questions or otherwise discuss the article, you will need to call out hold to remove it from the consent calendar, and then also be joined by 6 other voters to hold it. So I will begin reading those now. Article 7. None. Article 8. None. Article 9. None again. Article 10. Nothing. And the articles to be passed over. Article 12. Article 13. Article 14. Article 15. Article 27. And Article 31. Okay, and there are also no holds from the overflow either, so we are ready to vote on the consent calendar. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. Remember, press green for yes and red for no. Your last vote before the time for voting ends will be counted. Does everyone understand what is being voted on? Seeing no questions, are we ready, Karen? Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. In this room, it is 608 yeses, 46 noes. We apologize for the delay. As we are voting, the people in the overflow room will be hand counted, so it will take a little bit. from the overflow is 32 yes and 0 no, bringing the total to 640 yes, 46 no. The motion passes, and Articles 7 through 10 as printed are adopted, and Articles 12 through 15, 27, and 31 are passed over. We will now move on to Article 1.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $78,948,009 for the expenses and salaries of various elected and appointed town officials and town departments for the period commencing July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. All as presented in the column entitled Finance Committee Recommendations FY 2027, appearing in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee under Article 1, said sum to be raised in the following manner. Taxation and other available sources, $77,753,448. Title V betterments, $143,864. Pension reserve, $250,000. Trash receipts, $49,487. Water receipts, $403,070. Sewer receipts, $192,754. Stormwater receipts, $155,386, for the total of $78,948,009.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Hennessy, and I also heard a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Briefly, before we go on to debate here, I just want to review how we will be discussing the budget. Obviously, the motion will be made first, and the FinCom recommendation that just happened. And then I will read aloud all the line items, the line numbers, and the titles for each category in the budget, such as line 114, moderator. Any voter who's wishing to discuss any item or make a motion to amend must call out hold when I get to that item. We will confirm the held items and then move to a vote on the non-held items only. Thereafter, we will consider the held items separately by line, deliberating and voting on each one. And I believe now we have a presentation on Article 1. I would like to recognize the CFO, Chris Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Keeler, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Annual Town Meeting. My name is Chris Correa. I'm the Interim Chief Financial Officer for the Town of Bellingham. I would like to spend a few minutes with you to present our balanced budget for fiscal year 2027. The FY27 budget was developed with a focus on maintaining essential services in light of the budget challenges facing our community. It reflects months of collaboration between town staff, department heads, the Finance Committee, as well as the Select Board. It's our financial roadmap for the upcoming year and beyond, focusing on maintaining a strong fiscal footing while continuing to deliver the services the community relies on, focusing on long-term forecasting, diversifying revenue, building structural reserves, and prioritizing core values so that the budget naturally adapts to changing economic environments. As I'm sure many of you are aware, this budget process has not been without its obstacles. So let us walk through key elements and challenges of the FY26 budget together in hopes of painting a clear and concise picture. Next slide, please. New growth. New growth has played a major role in the development of the FY27 budget. For the second time in 5 years, we are seeing a dramatic decline in new growth here in Bellingham. While our overall assessment base remains stable, the influx of new construction and development has slowed considerably. From 2023 through 2025, we saw a steady increase in new growth, where it nearly hit $2 million before the decline in 2026. We're projecting new growth to come in at $450,000 for FY27, which is very concerning. We as a community need to work together and think of creative ways to get new growth back on track and on an upward trend. Next slide, please. Health insurance. Municipalities across the Commonwealth and nationwide, for that matter, have been facing double-digit year-over-year increases in employee and retiree health insurance premiums. And here in Bellingham, it's no different. These sudden spikes have placed unprecedented pressure on our operating budgets. Take a look at the chart. Our health insurance appropriation has climbed from $7.5 million in 2023 to a proposed appropriation of nearly $11.7 million for 2027. That is a staggering 56% increase in 5 years. In past years, free cash has been used to offset the health insurance trust. In my opinion, this is not sustainable. Given the volatility of these costs, the health trust needs to be budgeted at the full recommended amount and closely monitored on a monthly basis. Next slide, please. Next, we have free cash. So for a quick definition of free cash, for those who may not be familiar with the term, free cash are the remaining funds from the previous fiscal year. These funds are made up by either unspent funds from the previous fiscal year's budget, revenues that came in higher than projections, unused balances in accounts that were closed out, or any remaining free cash from the prior year that was not expended. As our operating budgets get leaner and leaner each year, given the challenges that we just spoke about, we will continue to see a major impact on the amount of free cash that we'll be able to generate for future years. So if you take a look, we're already seeing it. We were at the top of the mountain in 2023, where we generated $6.7 million in free cash. In 2026, we certified $3.7 million in free cash. That's a 44% drop in just 3 years. And the Division of Local Services recommends that municipalities aim to generate free cash equal to 5 to 7% of their annual operating budget. In 2026, we just fell short on the low end of 5%. Next slide, please. Now that we've discussed the challenges that our community is facing, let's dive deeper into the FY27 budget. Tonight, we are delivering an $88.4 million total budget, which represents 4.05% increase over the current fiscal year. This includes the town's 5 budgeted funds, the general fund operating budget, along with the 4 enterprise funds: trash, water, sewer, as well as stormwater. The chart on the screen illustrates the estimated percent changes from FY26 to FY27 in each budgeted fund. Next slide, please. General fund operating budget. As I had stated at the beginning of the presentation, this has been a challenging budget cycle for the town to balance. Our state aid and local receipts have seen modest growth, but they are vastly outpaced by mandatory cost drivers. Inflation has increased operational expenses by double digits, and we're grappling with contractual increases and surging healthcare costs. And these are not discretionary expenses. They are baseline obligations required to keep our town functioning. So with that being said, let's take a look at the top chart and the primary budget drivers in this FY27 general fund operating budget. First, there's a $3.3 million increase in health insurance budget, which is arguably the biggest budget driver, not only here in Bellingham, but across the Commonwealth. We're also seeing an increase of $407,000 in public safety, as well as an increase of $315,000 in our Norfolk County assessment. Along with those increases, we're also seeing some significant decreases in the FY27 budget. The school department is seeing a decrease of $734,000, while the Department of Public Works will see a reduction of $387,000 in their overall budget. On the chart below, I've also included an additional document which indicates how the funds are allocated throughout the budget. Nearly 44% of funding is appropriated to education, while 26% to fixed costs, such as health insurance and debt service. 13.5% is allocated to public safety, 6.5% is allocated to state assessments, such as county tax, regional transit, and all other general fund departments make up nearly 10% of the overall budget. With those budget drivers being presented, the question now is, how are we funding the FY27 budget? If we all look at the pie chart on the screen at the right side, you'll see that 73% of the town's revenue comes from local property taxes, 17% from state aid, and 8% from local receipts, such as motor vehicle excise tax, permit fees, and investment income. And 2% comes from other sources. Next slide, please. And lastly, I'd like to end on a positive note. I wanted to show where Bellingham stands and how we compare with other neighboring communities within Norfolk County. There are 28 communities that make up Norfolk County, and at the end of each fiscal year, the Department of Revenue collects data on every single community and their average single home values and tax bills. And what this chart shows is for the last 10 years, and perhaps much longer, Bellingham continues to have the lowest average single-family tax burden in all of Norfolk County. Bellingham continues to be a great place to live and continues to be a great deal for the services that are provided. And with all that being said, I can tell you that a lot of work, a lot of compromise, and many late nights, and maybe some sweat and maybe a few tears, have gone into preparing this FY27 budget. A big thank you goes out to all department heads, all boards and committees who have worked diligently and tirelessly to develop this challenging budget. So now I'd like to hand off the presentation to Dr. Peter Morano, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here today, and I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis of the school budget and where our increases have come from. So we can go to the next slide, please. So again, our huge budget drivers this year are our special education increases, our transportation increase, we have an increase in maintenance, then we have our salaries and the health insurance trust. So in special education, that increase is $571,000. Though that a majority of that is coming from our students who go to out-of-district schools. So these are kids that we can't service within our district, and we send them to other schools that can give them the services that they need. Those increases over the last 3 years have been at a staggering 14%. The second piece of transportation has gone up $808,000. About $200,000 of that is our in-district transportation with our local vendor. The rest of it is the out-of-district transportation that we spend. So we contract with vendors, we try to get the best rate that we can to transport our students out of district to their schools, and that's coming in at around $600,000 increase. Maintenance has gone up requested to go up $167,000. Our buildings are getting old. We've had some HVAC issues, and we wanted to increase that budget line so we can tackle those. Our salaries are going up $1.4 million. Again, those are all our salaries between our staff, with teachers, our paraeducators, singletons. It's across the board, and those are contracts that are negotiated every 3 years through a very collaborative process. And then finally, the health insurance trust that was mentioned earlier, the school department is taking on $1.2 million of that increase. So it brings our total budget increase for FY27 at $4.2 million. Next slide, please. So in order to reduce that number, we had to make staffing reductions in programs. So we made 37 staff reductions, which would significantly impact the workforce across elementary and secondary levels. We looked at eliminating our athletic and extracurricular programs. That saved about $650,000. And then we had additional reductions in administrative positions, technology, professional development, and then, as I said earlier, looking at for an increase in maintenance, we actually reduced that budget also to get our balanced budget and come in at $4.2 million less than we're requesting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now, as I said, go through each individual line item of the article. If you would like to, any voters who's wishing to discuss an item or make a motion to amend it, please call out hold when I get to that item. Starting with item 114, town meeting moderator. Item 122, select board. You got a hold on 122. 123, town administrator. I heard a hold on 123. 131, finance committee. 132, reserve fund. 135, Chief Financial Officer. 137, Assessors. 142, Assessors Revaluation. 145, Treasurer and Collector. 151, Town Council. 152, Human Resources. 154, Miss/Infotech. 156, tax title foreclosure. 161, town clerk. 162, elections. 171, Conservation Commission. 172, Planning Board. 173, Zoning Board of Appeals. 183, Commission on Disability. 189, Public Buildings Maintenance. 190, on-the-job injury for deductible. 193, property and liability insurance. 194, retirement. 195, Medicare and employer share. 196, town reports. 197, physical and occupational health. 210, police department. 220, fire department. 251, inspector, building inspector. 253, plumbing inspector. 255, electrical inspector. 292, animal control. 294, tree warden. 300, School Department. Did I hear a hold? Hold, yes. 302, Blackstone Valley Vocational. 422, DPW Highway. 423, Snow and Ice Removal. 424, Street Lighting. 426, Gas. 491, Cemetery. 510, Board of Health. 541, Council on Aging. 543, Veterans. 610, Library. 630, Parks and Recreation. 632, Town Common. 650, Historical Commission. 651, Cultural Council. 660, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. 750, Debt Service. 989, OPEB Trust. 990, Workers' Compensation. 991, Unemployment Trust. 992, Group Insurance Trust Fund. 994, Municipal Insurance Trust. 996, Capital Investment Trust. And 997, Comp Absences Fund. Okay, going through all of them, we will now confirm the held items. One second, waiting to see if there's any holds in the overflow room. There are no additional holds from the overflow room, so we are going to confirm all the held items. Number 122, Select Board. 123, Town Administrator. 135, Chief Financial Officer. 137, Assessors. 142, Assessors Revaluation. 145, Treasurer and Collector. 152, Human Resources. 154, Miss and Infotech. 162, Elections. 172, Planning Board. 210, Police Department. 220, Fire Department. 292, Animal Control. 300, School Department. 422, DPW. 541, Council on Aging. And 992, Group Insurance Trust Fund. And that is it for held items. So now we will go on and take a vote on all the items that were not held And then after that, we'll go into deliberation on each individual held line item, one by one. So with that, are we ready for a vote, Karen, on all the non-held items in Article 1? The time for voting for the non-held items has begun. While we wait for the vote count from the overflow room, if you have a question on the first held item, 122 Select Board, you can begin to make your way to the microphones now. We have been made aware that a few people's clickers are not working. If your clicker is not working, we're going to please ask that you make your way to the overflow room so that way your vote can be counted. But for the efficiency of time going forward, as you can see, the vote here is 584 to 42. In the overflow room, it was 97 yes to 0 no. Being that there's 97 people in that room, if a vote is within 150 between yes and no, we will wait for the overflow room's vote. If the difference is greater than 150, we will go on with the motion before hearing from them on it, in the interest of time. So with the total count, we do have that the non-held items are passed, and we will move on to the discussion for the held items. Yes, in the back.
Kim O'Neill, 2 Lakeshore Drive. Curious, how many salaries are for the selectmen? Not the elected or the appointed salaries, just the salaries for the 100,000.
I'm going to defer to our town administrator, Mr. Layden, for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Town Moderator, and good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Layden. I'm the Town Administrator. Under the Select Board budget, there is only one full-time employee. Other items that are included in the salary line include the Select Board stipends.
Aren't the select board stipends in the above part where it says 12,900?
Yes, that is correct. So the other, sorry. So the second salary line is for the executive assistant to the select board.
So that one person makes $100,000, and in 2026, they got a 34.77% increase, and now we're looking at another 3.09% increase. That's a lot for one person.
Through the moderator, the position has a contract, and that this is a standard COLA increase similar to other contracted employees based off of what was approved by town meeting at the FY26 annual spring town meeting.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or discussions related to 122 Select Board? Yes, I see someone in the back.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dan Ranieri, Reservoir Drive. Could someone tell me what Dennis Frame was making when he left the job?
Through the town moderator, the town administrator's salary was not included in budget line 122 under the select board.
Well, let me ask the question again. Can someone tell me what Dennis Frame's salary was when he left, the town administrator, former town administrator?
Unfortunately, this line item's only pertaining to the Select Board, so we would, for line item 122, so we will not be taking questions related to the town administrator until we get to 123.
Okay. So just give you some time to look for the answer.
All right. All right. Well, all right. Seeing no one else at the mic, so we are ready to vote on article or on line item 122, the Select Board. We will be once again doing an electronic vote. If you vote yes, vote with the green button. For no, press the red button. And Karen, we are ready whenever you are. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. There's 408 yes, 235 no. As indicated prior, that is greater than 150. So we will call the line item passed and adopted. Moving on to 123, Town Administrator. Are there any questions, comments related to town administrator?
Same question. I just wonder what Mr. Frayne was making when he left the position, or what the position was paid at that time.
I'll recognize town administrator Joe Layden for this.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As many of the people in the audience may or may not have been aware that Mr. Frayne had retired from the town of Bellingham over 3 years ago. While the town underwent a town administrator search, he continued to work on a part-time basis. While they underwent the search, that search took 3 rounds. So there was an extended period of time that he worked on a part-time basis, and I don't have those part-time numbers available for you.
Does anyone sitting up there on the table can tell me what Dennis was making when he was working full-time, understanding he was part-time at the end? That should not be a difficult question. What basically was the town administrator's position? What was the salary?
I'll recognize Mr. Martinez of the Select Board.
So the contract is executed more than 3 years ago. We don't have that number. We're 2 CFOs past that person who would have that number. We don't have the number tonight, but we're happy to get for you at a later date.
If I might, Mr. Moderator, the reason I asked, it kind of goes to the heart of what we're going to be talking about here later on, is we're looking for an override, but yet you'll notice there's been salary increases all over the place. They may be well-deserved, but how do you explain to the voters, to the parents who are here worried about sports, that you can continue giving raises with $4 million of debt and think that's okay?
Thank you, Mr. Ameri. I will repeat again, as I stated at the beginning, applauding and cheering will only disrupt and delay. I ask that we keep it extremely limited as we continue to go on. Yes, in the back.
Kim O'Neill, 2 Lakeshore Drive. Just curious, for salaries and clerical support, how many positions is that for the 233,000?
I will defer to our town administrator, Mr. Layden.
The salaries clerical support line includes 1 full-time employee being myself, and then 25% of an admin that is shared with the HR department that does HR and benefits.
So what would your salary be? Let's just make that.
I will ask once again that questions be directed to me, and I will defer to the appropriate town personnel.
What would his salary be?
I will defer to Mr. Layden to answer this question. Thank you.
In the interest of transparency and also to prevent my office from having a whole bunch of public document requests, the salary that was executed between the board and myself back in September was an annual salary of $206,000.
Which I believe is actually more than the fire chief and the police chief. But what is the increase, why is there such an increase for the expenses for your department? For the administrative department?
So just for town meeting, just so you're aware, the FY27 budget does show a decrease compared to FY26, which was approved a year ago. The board, during their various searches for a town administrator, had to revise the advertised salary to make sure that they could get candidates that they felt would be appropriate for the town and for the future, as well as working with staff.
But that's the expenses that's increasing?
Oh, sorry. With the expenses, the increase that is roughly about $3,500 from FY26 to FY27 reflects actual realistic expenses that were going to some other line so that they could be consolidated into that expense line.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
Hi, Mark McNamara, Bryan Road in Bellingham. Just to follow up on the gentleman's question earlier, just so I know, he was told that you would get back to him at a later date on what the salary was of Mr. Frayne, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I
So
believe
are we
that's what it
voting,
said.
can we push this article, can we take this article out? How can we vote on something without all the information? We're gonna, can we push this article off?
I just want to answer the question. I'm not sure what the relevance of Dennis Frayne's salary today, okay, what Mr. Layton's salary is today compared to what Mr. Frayne's salary was 4 years ago. Okay, there's a very different time, very, very different. So 4 years, if Dennis were getting his year-over-year increases, his salary would be greater than Mr. Layton's is today. Just so you know that, the math, because he was right around 180,000 4 years ago. I don't have the exact number, but that's the ballpark. So if you do increases, year-over-year increases, he'd be well over the $206,000. So when we went to hire Mr. Layton, and it took this 3 rounds to find the right candidate, we hired outside consultants, and we had a committee made up of the residents that went through the selection process. It was recommended, and we looked at average salaries of administrators with the level of experience that we were looking for this town. And the salary ranges went from $195,000 to $235,000 a year. The Medway Town Administrator makes upwards to $250,000 a year. Okay? Mr. Layton has, and we're comparing. Mr. Layton's experience is 25 plus years in public administration and many years as a town administrator. He was the right candidate at the time, and we negotiated a salary that was at the bottom end of the range. So his starting salary was $200,000. That was the starting, and he goes up. You get your 3% COLA year over year. That's in the contract. So he started at the bottom end, and we worked in good faith with Mr. Layton. So you really can't compare what Mr. Frayne was making 4 years ago to what we brought Mr. Layton in this year.
Well, so just to say that
We just got the numbers, and I apologize. In 2024, Mr. Frayne made $193,000. Oh, 2022, $193,000 in 2022. And in 2024, he made $211,000. Then he went to part-time work. So he was above that number.
Well, that wasn't so hard, was it?
I will just say it again. He is more than properly compensated for what he does for this town.
Well, the reason the question was asked so we compare apples to apples, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. I see another gentleman in the front here.
Can I please make a motion to vote on the line item? Families are losing their child care. These delay tactics are friggin' ridiculous.
We do not need a motion to do that. Seeing no one else at the mic, it appears we are ready to vote on item 123. Again, we'll do this by the clicker vote. Please press green for yes and red for no. Your last vote before the time of the voting ends will be counted. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. We have 496 yeses, 170 nos. As indicated prior, that is a greater than 150 difference. So line item 123 will pass. And I just want to note for the record that those other votes in the room will be counted and reflected in the official record. This is just to keep the meeting moving as quickly as possible. Next, we are on to item 135, Chief Financial Officer. Yes, in the front.
Motion to vote on the item.
If you'd like to motion to vote right away, it would be a 2/3 vote.
Let's take a voice vote then.
Okay, I heard a motion and
two
a
people can't hold up the whole town meeting
I heard a
by
motion
saying
and a
hold.
second. Thank you, sir. We heard a motion and a second. We will go on to the vote. It requires a 2/3 vote to move the question to end the debate. Try this by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. We will move to the question and vote on line 135 right now. Karen, can we please get the vote up? Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 364 yes, 220 no. That is not over the 150 mark. We will be waiting for the overflow rooms of numbers. And the vote from the overflow room is 56 yes, 69 no. The yeses, yes, motion passes, and line item 135 is passed. We are now on to line item 137, assessors. Yes, in the front.
Yep, Doug Martin, 10 Dupree Road. Motion to move to the vote, please.
Yep, seeing no one else at the mic, we will move right on to the vote. No need to vote on that. We were ready to vote to approve line item 137. Again, we will do the electronic vote. Please press green for yes and red for no. Your last vote before the time ends will be counted. Karen. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. There is 524 yes, 115 no. The motion passes. Line item 137 is passed. We are now on to line item 142, assessor's revaluation. Yes, the lady in the back.
Could you please explain what the assessor reevaluation is?
Town Administrator, Mr. Layden.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to recognize Betsy Canoia, our assessor.
Thank you. This account was created as a result of the sophistication of the properties that we have and the amount of appeals I have currently at the Appellate Tax Board. It's gone up since fiscal '24 because, unfortunately, the way the courts rule, these things get continued year after year after year. This $45,000 has been put aside in the event that I need to retain legal counsel or if I have to get an appraisal to fight some of these more sophisticated properties. Fortunately, I haven't had to use that fund heavily. We only have about 31 days left in the fiscal year, so the $45,000 from fiscal '26, I've only spent $1,400 of it. However, I have 7 or 8 cases pending consisting of multiple fiscal years. My hope is to settle them without using this account, but it's there in case I need it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front.
John Curley, Apache Road. Motion to move to the vote.
Seeing no one else at the mic, we do not need to take a vote on that. It looks like we are ready to vote on line item 142. Again, we will be doing the electronic vote, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready whenever you are. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. There is 593 yes, 75 no. Line item 142 is adopted. We are now on to item 145, treasurer and collector.
Kim O'Neill, 2 Lakeshore Drive. Could you tell me how many salaries this is?
Our town administrator, Mr. Layden.
Ms. Moderator, I'm sorry, could the person repeat the question?
How many salaries does this include?
Within this budget line, we have department head, assistant treasurer clerk, senior clerk, a deputy, and part-time hourly clerk. So 4 employees and 1 part-time.
Why such a big expense account for that department? $142,000.
In order to answer that question, I'd like to recognize Lindsay, our treasurer collector.
All right, thank you. So there's only 3 full-time people in my department and 1 part-time. So it's 4 people total for the salary. For the expenses, it's just for the, all my bill vendors that print all of our bills every year, they go up 3%. So that's what the difference is. All my
Can you just
vendors.
repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Oh, all the bill printing that we have to do for the bills in town every year, our vendors went up with their price by 3%.
So it's
that's-
not you guys who print out the bills, it's somebody else who prints out the bills and we pay that much money to have somebody else print them out?
It's not just specifically for the bills. We send out probably over 30,000 bills a year. Be very time consuming for that to be done in my office. So that also includes office supplies, any expenses that we have to do. It includes everything, not just the bill printing.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the front here?
Hi, I'd like to move for a vote, but I also have a question. There are many of
I
us...
apologize, you cannot both move for a vote and ask a question.
Okay, then I have a question.
Okay.
My question is that if it's possible for us, many of us who were here for a very specific reason, although we do care about the runnings of the town very much, for us to move to voting on question 2, because we are very concerned about our schools and the budget of our schools. We'd like to vote on that. If that's out of order, I understand, but I wanted to ask since there's so many people here and we're well past the time that we were even proposed to be here for.
Right, I completely understand, but where we are in the middle of the article, we're just going through the held items of it. We're unfortunately not able to do that. So we're going to have to keep going through the held items before moving on. Yes, in the front.
All right, well then I have a question. Can I make a motion to pause voting on the held items and move to Article 2?
That is not a motion that can be made.
Can I, then could you possibly ask town council to address that?
Yes, the answer to that from town council is that we cannot because we are in the middle of an article.
All right, motion to vote on this tab.
There is no one else at the microphone, so we do not need to go for a motion. We were ready to vote on approving item 145. Again, we'll be doing the electric vote, green for yes, red for no. Karen, whenever you are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up, 551 yes, 99 no. Line item 145 is passed. It is clear that a lot of people seem to want to go through these held items very quickly. If you held the item and would like to speak on the held item, can you please wait at the microphone so that we can get through this as quickly as possible? Next up is item 152. Yes, in the back.
Shut up. Human resources, how many department employees are under that line item?
Can you please repeat the question more into the microphone? I'm not sure everyone heard.
So for the salaries for human resources, how many positions is that?
Two positions.
Is that 2 full-time salaries or just 1 full-time and a part-time?
One full-time, so one of the employees is split between the town administrator's office as well as HR, and then we also have funds for another part of another employee that is within the chief financial office, so that it is 2 FTEs, full-time equivalents.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the front.
Mr. Moderator, earlier in the meeting you said that there needed to be 6 other voters to hold a warrant or an item.
That was related to the consent calendar.
Got it, okay. Motion to vote on this item, please.
To Ms. O'Neill in the back, do you plan on asking these same questions to every held item? Okay, please stop with that.
No, I'm not, but come to If a lot of these people had come to other meetings, previous meetings, I don't think that we would be in the situation that we're in. A lot of the money that has been approved.
Okay, now I was just
should
asking
not
the
have
question
been
to see if we could streamline it by going through the other articles. I was just wondering if it was going to be the same two questions so that we could get them all done at once prior to voting.
The next one, I'd like to know what is miscellaneous and tech information.
We are on item 152. We will have to wait for that one.
That's fine.
Okay, is there any more comments on 152? No. It looks like we are ready to vote on line item 152. Again, it will be with the clicker vote, green for yes, red for no. Karen, whenever you are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. There are 543 yes, 111 no. Line item 152 has passed. We are on to item 154, miscellaneous and information technology. Yes, Ms. O'Neill in the back.
What is this line item?
Mr. Layden?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. MIS is Managed Information Systems. This is our IT budget for the town.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one else at the mic, we are ready for a vote to approve line item 154. Again, using the clickers, press green for yes and red for no. Karen, whenever you are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 525 yes, 119 no. Item 154 is adopted. On to 162, elections. Seeing no one at the microphones, it appears we are ready to vote. Again, we will use the clickers. Please press green for yes and red for no. Karen, whenever we are ready. Yes, we're voting. Which way is the screen?
There it is.
Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 485 yeses, 163 noes. Line item 162 is passed. We are on to item 172, Planning Board. Seeing no one at the microphones, it appears we are ready to vote. We will again be using the clickers. Please use green for yes, red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. There are 558 yeses, 101 noes. Line item 172 has passed. We are on to line item 210, Police Department. Yes, Ms. O'Neill.
The administrative personnel, why is there a 56% increase? How many people is that position?
Mr. Layden?
Mr. Moderator, first I just would ask the question to be reread, and also I'd like to recognize Chief Ken Fitzgerald to answer the question.
Good evening. What's the question specifically?
I'm just curious, how many employees does the administrative personnel entail? This $490,000.
So the increase is because the big increase is last year we reclassified, sorry, this is very feedbacky. We reclassified a sergeant to a lieutenant. So that salary was taken out of the line where the police and sergeant salaries are and moved into that. So that's why there's a large increase. There's a new position in there. It's not an additional body. It's just a reclassified position. The actual increase in pay was about $12,000.
So they're not under the police officer salaries, the lieutenants and the sergeants?
No, lieutenants are the administration category.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else at the microphones, it appears we are ready to vote on line item 210. Again, we will be using the clickers. Please press green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has ended. 576 yes, 74 no. Line item 210 has passed. We are on to item 220, Fire Department.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, in the back.
Okay, Catherine May, 280 Farm Street. My question is regarding the expense account. If someone could give us an example of what kind of expenses generate $705,000.
I will recognize Town Administrator Mr. Layden.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to recognize Chief Bill Miller to answer the question.
Good evening. So the other expenses are everything but salary. So that's vehicle maintenance, that's training, that's outside equipment that we may need, that's everything to keep the buildings operating, such as maintenance and things like that. So anything that's not included in salaries.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill.
For the administrative personnel, how many is that? It's over $1 million.
37 personnel, full-time personnel for the fire department. So line staff, that would be 34.
So that's not the firefighters or the EMTs?
Yes, that is. So
But the firefighter EMTs, their budget line is $1,935,000, but the administrative personnel is $1,149,000.
Yep, so administrative personnel are the deputies, captains, and lieutenants. Those are classified as administration. And then the firefighter, paramedics are the other side. We break them down for tracking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else at the microphones, it appears we are ready to vote on line item 220. Again, we will be using the clickers, green for yes, red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is over. 621 yes, 44 no. Line item 220 is passed. We're moving on to item 292, Animal Control. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
Yeah, just a question on salaries here for animal control. How many people do we have full-time under the animal control?
Under the Animal Control Department, and just to note, this is a department that is also shared equally in half. 50% is paid by Bellingham, 50% by Franklin. We have 2 full-time employees, and we have 5 part-time people that are hourly.
Thank you.
With no one else at the microphones, it appears we are ready for a vote on line item 292. Again, we will be using the clickers, green for yes, red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 519 yes, 132 no. Line item 292 is passed. We are now on to item 300, School Department. Seeing no one at the microphones, it appears we are... Oh. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
Mark Flannery, 244 Farm Street. With all of the budget challenges that Dr. Morano put on his presentation earlier today, why does the budget have a 2.101% decrease year over year?
I'll recognize Superintendent Morano for this.
It's not a year over year, it's just for this coming school year, FY27. Our budget is $734,000 less from this current school year.
So, understood. That is year over year, fiscal year 26 versus fiscal year 27. Why, with all the increased expenses, is the budget that is a non-override budget 2% lower than last year?
Because we had to cut.
Than this year, than this current fiscal year.
Because we cut, as I showed in the slide, the special ed increases, the transportation, and the health care.
So all of the cuts that the school department made were less important than all the other positions that were added? We just went through several departments where every single department got an increase. The DPW is the only other budget that got a decrease. Why is the school department getting a decrease and every single other line item getting an increase?
I will now recognize our town administrator, Mr. Layden, for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So one of the items, as was mentioned earlier by our interim CFO. Sure. As was mentioned earlier by our interim CFO, we went into FY27 with a lot of challenges, and what's not also shown is that on the municipal side, we also cut about $500,000 from additional costs to balance the budget. One of the principal factors that came into this was the need to increase health insurance by $3,300,000 above what was appropriate in FY26. When we got that number from the consultants, we were already in the middle of a budget process. For those of you who are maybe new to the budget process, we start this back in November with the budget guidance, and then we're having joint meetings with the school committee, select board, finance committee, department heads, all through the months of January, February, and into March as we finalize the budget. Presented with a $3.3 million need to increase health insurance because of dwindling free cash, what we ended up having to do was that created a $1.6 million deficit. It was assigned proportionally between school and town, reflective of the proportion of health insurance users. That resulted in a 70-30 split. It resulted in $500,000 being cut from police, fire, DPW, town, and then the remaining, as was mentioned in the superintendent's slide, 1.2 from the school department. This is a very challenged budget season. This is not something that went into casually. There was a lot of meetings, a lot of input. Finance committee itself had 5 public hearings on the budget. And ultimately the school committee, in order to make sure that they could maintain services, requested Article 2 to be put on the warrant, which we will be discussing after this article.
Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the back?
Dan Ranieri, 5 Reservoir Drive. Your question, Mark, goes to the heart of what we're talking about this evening. The school department, in the 50 years that I go back being part of the committee, never had health insurance in their operating budget. This year, when the school committee, and Mr. Morano, if I'm incorrect, please correct me. This year, when the school committee went into met with the town administrator, which usually took place sometime in the early fall, they usually asked the question, how much can we expect from the town? This year, the school committee was told, you're basically not getting anything. It was handed a bill for $1.2 million for health care that has never happened before. Okay? The school department does not and has never, in the years that I can remember, ever participated in decision-making when it comes to the health care. It was the Board of Selectmen that is responsible for the funding of your health care. Now, last May, we had a town meeting. The town meeting voted on a balanced budget, and 4 or 5 months into that budget, we find out we have a $4 million debt. Does that make sense to anyone? They kicked the can down the road. They underfunded health care for at least 3 years, if not 4 years. Okay? And when the time came where they had no money to take it out of the reserves, they go to the school department, they say, you're picking up $1.2 million as part of your override, which increases the chances of that override passing. What they could have done is have the school department have their override, and Mr. Morano said it would have been roughly about $1.2 million, and have a separate override for the health insurance. That way, the kids in our town would not have been caught in the middle of this. That is the problem, folks. No one is going to convince me that 5 months into a budget, you find yourself $4 million in the hole. It's impossible. It's inconceivable. And I think that's the reason many people are here tonight trying to find out what happens in the future also. Things aren't going to change. We're looking at a 13% increase next year for health insurance. And I haven't heard anyone up there sitting on that stage say to us, here's what we're going to do different. Okay? So your question, Mark, is exactly, I think that was the point you're making. The school department essentially was told, here, $1.2 million out of your operating budget. It was unfair, and for the life of me, I don't know why the school committee didn't fight it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ranieri. Seeing no one else at the microphones, it appears we are ready to vote on line item 300. Again, we'll be using the clickers. Press green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has ended. 466 yes, 189 no. Line item 300 is passed. Moving on to line item 422, DPW. Seeing no one at the microphones, it appears we are ready to vote on line item 422. Again, we will be using the clickers. Press green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 554 yes, 75 no. Line item 422 is passed. Moving on to line item 541, Council on Aging. Seeing no one at the microphone, it appears we are ready to vote on line item 541. Again, we'll be using the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 565 yes, 78 no. Line item 541 is passed. Moving on to line item 992, Group Insurance Trust Fund. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
Mark Flannery, 244 Farm Street. How much of the proposed $11,696,396 in this is to pay for this fiscal year expenses?
Mr. Layden?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This budget line item is for FY27 that starts July 1st and runs through June 30th, 2027.
So the answer is zero?
Correct. This is for FY27's budget, so no expenses would be proposed under this article.
So where did the money come from then that filled that budget deficit that you just discussed?
So the $11,696,396 is the recommended appropriation by our health insurance consultant to make sure that we are properly funding our full exposure for what is anticipated in next year's health insurance costs, expenses.
How did you pay for this current fiscal year's deficit?
For this year, we ended up in the fall town meeting appropriated $1 million from free cash, and later on in this town meeting, we're going to be appropriating another $780,000 to make sure that we are solvent through the end of June 30, 2026.
Does the town purchase stop-loss insurance?
Yes.
Since this is a self-insured group,
Yes, we do.
when does that kick in?
That kicks in when expenses exceed $175,000 for any specific claim.
So it's not based on a total, it's only based off of individual claims?
Correct.
And ultimately, this budget line item is the reason that the next article is here?
Correct. If expenses were in line with past appropriations and we did not need to use free cash to supplement, then there wouldn't be the $3 million increase that we're proposing. But because we went from appropriating 2 years ago $800,000 to a year ago $1.3 million, and now we're almost at $1.8 million, the $3.3 million that is being proposed as part of this budget line is to make sure that we are adequately funded through the fiscal year.
Why did the fiscal year budget go down from fiscal year 26, from 25 to 26? Why did it go down when we knew expenses were going up?
I unfortunately was not here during that time period. I don't have
Most of the
direct-
Board of Selectmen were here. Maybe one of them can answer, please.
So as far as from the previous year, with previous administration that was in place, it is very hard to really look back or look ahead and identify what is the difference between trends and what could have been a blip. And what we're seeing is coming out of COVID, while there had been some initial reductions and there was some initial savings, we've seen year-over-year increases that were not anticipated, and there's various drugs that also are being used that are increasing the cost to the town, which were not anticipated in the development of the FY26 budget.
So even though the trend for health insurance has gone up year over year over year. We budgeted less.
The annual appropriation by town meeting is what you see. What is missing is the supplemental appropriations by town meeting using free cash.
What is to prevent, what precautions are in place to help reduce our risk going forward with regards to, why isn't the town just purchasing insurance through a regular health insurance company? Why do we have a self-insured group that we take 100% of the risk on?
Ultimately, that is an excellent question, and that especially everyone in this room, as was also previously stated, asked that question as far as what we're doing. Over the last number of months, when financial staff and myself have been meeting with the school committee, finance committee, and select board, we identified a plan as far as once town meeting is done, what we're going to be doing for steps to make sure that next year we are not in this position. Some of the challenge we have is that some health insurance provisions are within existing union contracts that will require to be negotiated in order to solve certain things. But another thing is we're starting a study to do an assessment, updating a study that was done 4 years ago on this self-insured model. We'll be working on that over the summer. We're also been in communication with the school department. They are now part of our bi-monthly meetings with the health insurance consultant to make sure they're aware exactly what the usage is so that we can work together to identify what we can bring to the table, not only for employees, but also for the residents to make sure that we are in sound financial shape and that we are reducing our health insurance exposure. There are things from not only identifying incentives as far as getting people to opt out of health insurance here and maybe join with a spouse. There are many other cost savings things that we're looking on. I don't want to mention exactly what they are because many of them would be subject to contract negotiations because we do have 2 more years on all of the union contracts for town employees.
These, the contract that you're talking about, I went on the town's webpage to see this contract so I could review it, and I did not see it. If it's in individual contracts, it's not in school budget. I was on school committee for 9 years and negotiated those contracts. What contract is this in?
So we have all the school contracts as well as police, fire, DPW that then have provisions for health insurance that identify percentage that the town and employees pay, but also any changes to the terms. So if we went and proposed to change conditions under health insurance, the town would open itself up to grievances and filings as far as changing work conditions. That's why it's something that we'd have to work together with the unions. It is not something from a top-down solution that we can immediately implement. We need to all work together as board members, as employees, as school, town employees in order to solve this.
Thank you.
Thank you. The lady in the front here.
So he asked most of my question, but so you're saying we're stuck paying this exorbitant amount for insurance until when? 3 years from now? And then you can negotiate a more plan that's more in line with what everybody else pays instead of a $300 deductible and $20 co-pays? Nobody gets that out in the private sector.
So that's a point that's really well taken, and what may not be fully known is that over the summer, previous town administrator as well as through the HR department, they did negotiate with the unions a change to many of the deductibles. So those deductibles are increasing, as well as there is a pharmaceutical copay that needs to be met before insurance starts covering it. So the town and the select board has taken steps to start to make some of these changes. There is not a one pill solution for this. There's many different things, and we've already started to try to do that. and it's going to have more of an impact for next year's budget to make sure that we are, from a financial standpoint, sustainable.
So if you're going to do this for next year's budget, that $11 million is going to decrease?
Right now, not knowing what the overall increases are, our hope is to decrease the trajectory so that we're not seeing 13, 16% increases. And because there are so many different elements, including, for example, if we incentivize someone to go on a spouse's health insurance, that would save the town money, but not knowing what that threshold is, how many people would take that on, I can't make a prediction as far as where we would be next year.
And how about increasing the premiums that all the employees pay?
That also is something that would need to be negotiated. I'm not saying that these discussions would wait until the contracts are up, but it is something that we need to have an honest conversation with our employees to identify what we can do working together and hopefully execute something that is sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the back left.
Yeah, D. Monty over on Potter Circle. Hey, look, I've heard a lot of wishy-washy talk tonight, and I want to just stay away from it all. I got a real simple question. Let's look at Bellingham as a business here. My employer, I'm 68 years old, my employer just went and changed health insurance again, premiums went up. That cost got passed on to me. Out of the town employees here, and this budget here for all this money for health insurance, how much of this is actually paid for by the employees of this town as opposed to the residents? How much of the residents, are we paying 100% of this? We paying 50% of this, 75% of this? How much is passed on to the actual employees of this town whose salaries are getting increased by the residents of this town who are paying for it?
Mr. Layden?
Included in the FY27 budget is the town's share. What is not shown out of the total cost is the amount of premiums that employees pay. That would be in addition to this amount. So this reflects the 80% that the town pays.
You can stop there. You're not answering my question. You're deflecting.
And that employees who are retired pay 50%, and this would include 50%. That is the town's responsibility.
That's total deflection. I asked a straight question. How much is being paid for by the employees of the town as opposed to the residents on this bill? It's a fair question. Are the employees' premiums going up like the residents' premiums go up? Everybody in this room pays for health insurance is paying an increase in residents. Every single one of them is paying an increase in health insurance. Are the employees of this town being charged reflectively for that difference? Or is the town paying for that?
The employees are also paying the same percent increase in their premiums. So,
and what percentage is that?
Because we have an open enrollment, the increase is approximately 16% increase compared to premiums for fiscal year 26.
So how would you compare that to somebody on Medicaid or Social Security that's paying over $300 a month?
I believe that question would be beyond the scope, comparing it to a completely different insurance system.
This is why we're all here, talking about what it's costing senior citizens to help keep this town running.
To the person raising the question, not knowing exactly what, because there are very different calculations that get into individuals, say Social Security as well as Medicare. The town does pay for retirees at a 50-50 split, and that increase is borne equally by retired employees as well as the town. The same thing, the town's percent increase is the same share as the employees' premiums, reflecting the increased cost of health insurance. What you're seeing under this proposed budget line is an appropriation to cover all of our anticipated expenses that are borne by the town It does not include the amount that's already raised as revenue from employees paying their premiums that then pays the full insurance bills.
So if this is the anticipated cost, I'm assuming prior years are also anticipated. Going back to the prior gentleman's question, how did we end up with a deficit of a few $1 million on health insurance in the middle of a budget year? I mean, come on, guys.
Thank you. The gentleman in the back right.
Hi, Randy Hall, 48 Hickson Street. As a business owner, obviously, the way that we address some of these exorbitant health insurance costs is by changing benefits or increasing employee participation, so on and so forth. I know that a lot of that has been addressed. So obviously in future negotiations, obviously to have that built in would be important. The other piece that I would like to know specifically is if this one specific line item is voted down. So if we say no to this, what happens?
I will defer to the town administrator.
So if this budget line was voted down, we would have no appropriation to pay health insurance bills, but it is legally an obligation. So what it's going to do is have an impact as far as our finances, and that it will impact our ability to generate free cash. It will have an impact on our ability to set a tax rate for the upcoming year when that happens in the fall. And there's the potential that then healthcare coverage could be put at risk for those employees that rely on our health insurance. Also, because we identified that within our union contracts, that we shall provide health insurance, that would reflect another potential liability as far as potential grievances coming from the unions.
So without the appropriations, would that give you leverage to go back to the unions to negotiate sooner than 2 years?
So realistically, it would present, I think, more challenges as far as working together cooperatively with all employees, whether it's individual contracts or within bargaining units. Because I think everyone, and I know that there's a lot of employees that are here as well, everyone knows the condition that we're in. And the hope is that we can all work together in order to address and solve this issue.
Yes, the gentleman in the front here.
Yes, I understand the town self-insures. Does it have its own self-insurance fund, or does it participate with other municipalities in the fund?
Mr. Layden?
We are not part of any sort of other group. We self-insure as the town of Bellingham itself. There are other models where then you go into a larger group. And as I mentioned earlier, the town is, we're going to be starting a study looking at our current model, comparing it against other models, including other cooperative groups, including the GIC, so that we can, as a select board, as well as finance committee and school committee, be able to better understand exactly what is the model and whether or not things have changed, where it's no longer an advantage to us to be self-insured.
Are you aware of other municipal self-insurance funds that have experienced the 40% increase that's projected?
I'm aware of, as was mentioned earlier by our interim chief financial officer, many towns are faced with significantly escalating healthcare costs that are primarily budget drivers. There are not a lot of towns, but there are other towns that are also self-insured, and they're facing very real problems balancing their budget against diminishing or escalating health insurance costs and diminishing trust funds such as what we have to pay for that and to cover when we have unexpected expenses above what was projected.
Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front here.
Hey, thank you. And also thank you for hosting this, answering all our questions here in this setting. But my question's similar to the gentleman, 2 questions ago was, what does a no vote get us? And Mr. Layden answered that question, but even as someone who works with insurance companies, I didn't really quite understand it. And I think that a lot of people in this room may have not understood it very well. Is it possible to relay that in more layman's terms?
I'll defer to our town council, Ms. Goldberg over here for this one.
Mr. Moderator, through you, the town has a statutory obligation to pay health insurance for its employees. There is no way to rescind the town's acceptance of those statutes. If we cannot pay our employees health insurance, we cannot have employees. I know that sounds dire, but it is, I think, that simple. This is a requirement for us to pay. Each and every one of our collective bargaining agreements includes language as well. So not only would we have an issue with keeping the current employees that we have, but as the town manager, the town administrator indicated, we'd also be open to grievances, lawsuits, unfair bargaining practices, claims. It would be a disaster.
May I ask her a question, or I can ask it through you? Would you anticipate that these losses would exceed the $3 million difference?
Mr. Moderator, through you. I think it's fair to say it would be a significant liability for the town that could be catastrophic.
There's a likelihood. Okay.
In my opinion, yes.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And second question is, Mr. Layden had mentioned that drug costs relate to the increase in insurance costs. Do we have our own formulary that we manage, or is it managed through another insurer?
I'll defer to Mr. Layden again.
So regarding prescriptions, we have formularies that then with Blue Cross Blue Shield, Harvard Pilgrim, they set the prices and all those, and then we also have other programs that then allow us to offer medicine at a discounted rate. An example is Canna RX, which is actually a program that allows for people to purchase pharmaceuticals from Canada at a reduced rate compared to what Blue Cross or Harvard Pilgrim can offer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to the gentleman in the back right.
So under, we have two stabilization accounts. Within those accounts, there's $5,369,000. Can any or a portion of that be used to offset this cost?
First, without asking a question, we have two stabilization accounts. One, general stabilization, which has about $2.9 million. The other is a tax rate stabilization account, which has 2.3. However, that can only ever be used if one of the power plants goes out, and it is specifically to allow for us to soften the impact from reduced revenue coming in from the power plant. So the only stabilization fund that we have is that approximately 2.9. And as was mentioned earlier by our interim CFO, we have to maintain a certain level of stabilization accounts. The Department of Local Services recommends that we are at between 5% and 7%. Between those two, we are about 6.3%. However, if we looked at only that first stabilization, we are below 5%. And if we dipped into that, when we go to borrow for construction projects, which we will be going out to borrow for not only roadway projects, but also for completing the construction of the PFAS, we run the risk of having our credit rating decreased, which would increase borrowing costs and therefore put us at more risk for increase costs in the long run.
Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Frank Cartier, Bellingham. I have a question. With the 1.2 million that was put forward onto the school committee for this insurance aspect, after listening to your presentation on 11 million, is there any way that that 1.2 can be removed off this account, given back to the school for this year to carry 26, 27, and address this, because you said this is an ongoing program for the next 3 years? Is there a way that they can, it would soften the aspect of the next article that everybody's here for, but to address a portion of this deficit that we have in our school, which was put on us as the school committee, as a former school committee member, but as a school committee member, this was put on their lap. It was never, as Mr. Ranieri said, it was never part of our responsibility. That was town responsibility. Is there a way that this can be adjusted for this season alone to help get forward in our deficit? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Layden?
So it's a really good question, and just to sort of go back to what was presented earlier, our total increase above FY26 is 3.3. The town within its operating budget absorbed over $2.1 million within its budget, resulting in the $1.6 million deficit. On the town side, we had additional cuts of $500,000, resulting in the 1.2. If we do not fund the 1.2, we do not in the fall town meeting know where we will be with free cash, and we may not be able to make that up. And also that will put us at risk if we do not have that money available, which later on in town meeting warrant, you'll see that we're only carrying forward about $156,000 of free cash into the upcoming year. So with having decreased new growth, with budgets that are really constrained, we are extremely concerned that going into FY27, we will not be generating the free cash to be available to make that $1.2 million up.
6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago probably now, Mr. Chairman, you came down to the mic and you spoke eloquently, and you spoke of the fact that nobody went to the insurance company to negotiate this. At that point for the last 6 weeks, did anybody ever approach the insurance company to renegotiate on our behalf for the town of Bellingham, but for the school committee? Because the school committee is the one that's absorbing this amount of money. Thank you for taking my question.
What had happened is the insurance was up, and our insurance plan needed to be renegotiated. It was the board prior to me being elected. At the time, the select board, and at the time, the human resources director kept everything status quo. They didn't change anything because it was a catastrophic event on the town administration side that was unavoidable. Mr. Cardi, I'm sure you're aware of what happened. So that's what it is. They just made a decision to keep everything status quo. They didn't change anything. There was no way we could have predicted the insurance catastrophe that has come forward with us. That's what had happened.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for an honest answer.
Thank you. I'll go to the lady in the back, right?
Kim O'Neill, there was discussion about having a subcommittee to look into going into the GIC insurance. Is that going to cost the town any money to do that study?
Mr. Layden?
In order for the town to do the comparative analysis looking at our current model is whether other models such as going to the GIC or other cooperative health insurance programs, because that involves the work of an outside consultant, there will be a fee that they are charged. We are working that out to make sure that, one, it is not outrageous, but that it is reasonable and also gets the information that the select board, town administrator, the superintendent need to make decisions going forward, and understanding exactly what the different options are and whether the town would be better suited moving to a different model.
So if we know that we're already increasing by a huge amount, aren't we just throwing money at doing an analysis that was already done a few years ago, stating that we should switch and that we cannot sustain staying self-insured?
The study that was previously done basically said that the town was breaking even. However, that study was based on health insurance claim data that was before COVID and then after COVID. We all know that we're in a very different world than we were in 2019, 2018, which were the first 4 years that study used data from. And we want to update it because even 2020, 2021, and getting into 2022, when people couldn't go to the doctors, if you can't go to the doctors, you can't file a claim. So we're looking to update the information with more timely, more relevant data to get a better recommendation for the town moving forward. I think that's something that also, in talking to not only board members, but also administration, but also employees, that will be very important to support any sort of changes moving forward.
Is the public going to be included on this subcommittee?
So currently, no committee's been set up. I had recommended at a public meeting that we have a working group that expands the current working group within Town Hall so that we include representatives from the Finance Committee as well as the School Committee and School Office so that we can save it. Much of the information we are looking at is sensitive information, but all of the discussion and all of the results have to be discussed in a public session, and I would expect that the select board would expect those dialogues to happen as part of public meetings.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front.
Sam Cowell, 489 Hartford Avenue. In light of the time and the important business that lay ahead of us, move to question.
There's been a motion to move the question. Is there a second? Second. We will take this by a vote. Again, it needs a 2/3 majority. We will attempt to do it in a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. And the ayes have it. We will move to the question. For the question on Article 992, we will use the clickers. Please use green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 472 yes, 161 no. Item 992 is passed. That is it for Article 1. We are now on to the next article.
Let's pretend to like time like shoes.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure you have. This was plain. I can.
So, I'm just looking to see.
She was asking.
So, we're gonna have to show them as show them. So, you know what? I'll be right this way.
Can we go to the next slide for the next article, please? Thank you.
I move to approve the motion shown on the screen.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
There's no recommendation by the Finance Committee on this article.
There is no recommendation from the Finance Committee on Article 2. We will now move to discussion. I will first recognize Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make this very, very brief. There's been a lot of discussion about our budget this evening. I'll say one thing. We have workshops, public workshops. I encourage all of you to attend so you can get to the level of detail that we've gotten to tonight. We might be able to save us all a lot of time and clear up a lot of misunderstanding. The vote that we're about to take tonight is for a $3 million override. We all heard the reasons earlier this evening from our interim CFO and from our superintendent why we're here today. Slow growth in our tax base, rising special education costs that are federally and state mandated, increasing transportation costs, contractual salary increases for teachers and staff. And we all know that Chapter 70 funding, although we receive funding and it's slightly up, it just isn't meeting the needs of the communities in the state of Massachusetts. So what's at stake? If we don't pass the override this evening, there's a potential that we're going to lose upwards to 60 to 70 students because of school choice. They may go to Medway, they may go to Millis, etc. Each of that costs the average taxpayer, costs the town, $7,500 on average, which would equate to $450,000 of unbudgeted money. Where's that money going to come from? We're going to have to cut somewhere else. That's the reality of things. I could stand up here for a few more hours, but I don't want to. What's the case for yes? The case for yes rests on the actual realities: the slow new growth, rising special education costs, escalating transportation, contractual salaries, etc., etc. Voting yes tonight means what? Preserving the teachers, counselors, and programs that define a Bellingham education, meeting the town's legal obligation to fund special education services for every eligible student, honoring the contracts negotiated in good faith with Bellingham educators, signaling to families, current and prospective, that Bellingham is a community that invests in its children, protecting property values by maintaining the quality school system that makes Bellingham desirable, breaking the cycle before it starts, keeping families in Bellingham rather than driving them towards school choice alternatives. Voting no has consequences that extend far beyond the fiscal year. It starts a process of decline that is very difficult to reverse. Cuts beget departures, departures beget deeper cuts. A generation of Bellingham families is watching tonight's vote as a signal of what this community values and whether it is a place they want to raise their children. What does it cost a homeowner? Everyone's asking, what does it cost? So the average, we saw earlier tonight, the average home value is roughly $450,000. That's $275 a year. It's $23 a month. For a home that values at $850,000, that's a $519 annual increase, or $43 a month. To put this in perspective, the Proposition 2.5 override on tonight's warrant is a product of circumstances largely beyond Bellingham's control. We've talked about slow growth, special ed, etc. I'm not going to belabor the point. The school department and the town have done what they can within the existing constraints. This override is necessary. The question tonight is not whether Bellingham can afford to approve the override. The real question is whether Bellingham can afford not to. The cost of inaction measured in lost teachers, lost programs, lost students, in a diminished sense of community is far greater than the cost of the override itself. $23 a month.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. In the front right here.
John Curley, Apache Road. Mr. Moderator, I'm about to turn into a pumpkin if I don't get home soon. So I make a motion. We've heard all the comments, the presentations, read all the Facebook groups. No one's mind is going to get changed tonight by staying here any longer. I make a motion to vote on the article.
We have a motion to move the question, and we have a second. This requires a 2/3 vote. We will attempt to do it by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it, and we will go on to voting on Article 2. Again, we will use the clickers. Use the green button for yes, the red button for no. Karen, we are ready whenever you are. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 460 yes, 171 no. Article.
Mr. Moderator, can I make a motion to reconsider, please, so we can get the reconsideration done?
I have taken the motion to reconsider, but we are waiting on the count from the overflow room. Yes, we are waiting for the overflow room count, and then we will take the motion to reconsider. The vote from the overflow room is in. It is 114 yes, 11 no. Apologize. Is that better? The vote from the overflow room is 114 yes and 11 no, so Article 2 does pass. We did hear a motion to reconsider. Is there a second on the motion to reconsider? Okay, we will take a vote on reconsider. Just to make sure we are clear, this vote, a yes vote on this motion would mean we want to re-vote on Article 2. If you vote no on the motion to reconsider, it means we will not be re-voting on Article 2. Are there any questions? No.
Someone said yes.
Yes? Can you please approach the mic so I can hear you?
Mr. Moderator, if they want to keep talking about the budget, then they vote yes. If they're done talking, they vote no.
Yes, so for the motion to reconsider, if you would like to reopen deliberation and discuss Article 2 again, you would vote yes to reconsider. If you want this vote to stick and you do not want to open the door again, you will vote no on reconsideration. Is everyone clear? Yes. Okay, we will attempt this by a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It seems the nays have it. This article will not be reconsidered.
Mr. Moderator.
We recognize many people are leaving right now, although there is many other articles to be discussed here. If you are leaving, we just please ask that you do it as quietly as possible and as quickly as possible so we can continue through the business. Thank you.
That's what we already did that. And we're gonna get them clickers and everything, so we know that there We are just giving the people in the overflow room a quick minute so they can join us in here now that we are under the capacity limit, so we will resume momentarily. Thank you.
Perks, I get perks. Is that a motorcycle?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are waiting to exit by the main lobby, you can also exit to the right of the clock if you'd like to exit out that hallway and then directly into the parking lot. So if you're trying to get out the main lobby and you'd like a shorter route, you can exit to the right of the clock. Once you go through those double doors, you can turn left and it'll bring you to that first parking lot.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We will now resume with the next article.
Mr. Moderator, I move to approve Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6 as shown on the screen in one single vote.
We have a motion to approve Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6, all to be considered in one vote. Do we have a second? There is a second. We will take this by a voice vote. We're going to go through all the motions up on the board very briefly. Oh, that is not. So again, we're showing the language for Article 3, 4, 5, and 6 before we vote on a motion to vote on all of them in one single vote. The numbers being displayed on the board are also available within the Finance Committee's recommendation and reports packet that was handed out. Is there any questions related to this motion? Seeing none, we're going to take it by a voice vote. All those in favor of voting on these articles all at once, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so we will be taking Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6 as one vote. Is there any further discussion related to these articles? Okay, so we'll go to the vote to approve Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll do a voice vote once again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6 are adopted. Articles 7 through 10 were acted on as part of the consent calendar, so we will now move on to Article 11.
But I'm not talking about until 16.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to amend the FY 2026 operating budget approved under Article 1 of the 2025 annual town meeting by adding a sum of $500,000 to line item 423, snow and ice budget, said sum to be transferred from free cash.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there a recommendation by the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 11? Seeing none, we will move on to the vote. We will vote by the clickers for this one. Green button for yes, red button for no. Karen, whenever you are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 200 yes, 29 no. The motion passes, and Article 11 is adopted. Articles 12, 13, 14, and 15 were included in the consent calendar, so we will now move on to Article 16.
I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $732,862.66 for the various projects described in the report and recommendation of the Finance Committee, and approve Article 16, including all incidental and related expenses, for the purposes in the amounts and from the funding sources specified, all set forth in said report under Article 16.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there a recommendation from the Capital Improvements Committee? Recommended. Is there any discussion related to Article 16? Yes, in the back.
Kim O'Neill, 2 Lakeshore. We just purchased 3 new cruisers last year. Do we really need to buy 2 more this year? Or can we hold off and hold that money for something else?
Go for it, Chief.
Mr. Layden?
I'd like to recognize Chief Fitzgerald to answer that question.
Hi, good evening. I'll try to keep this very brief, but we maintain a fleet of approximately 24 vehicles, so we have to have a fleet replacement program. If we don't replace things on an annual basis and we defer things, one thing it does is it defers maintenance. The other thing it does is it lowers other town departments' abilities to get secondhand vehicles that still have some life left in them. So we're basically would be kicking the can down the road, and what we're replacing is older stuff that is basically almost dead. So this is just part of a fleet replacement program, and it's not even what we actually need. We substantially cut back our request by over 33% to stay within the means of what the town has this year. So we're already kicking the can down the road. So it's not what, we just bought something last year. This is an annual fleet replacement program to maintain a fleet of vehicles in good working order that respond to emergencies at people's houses all over town.
One other follow-up question on that. So there's a fleet of 24. How many are driven per day?
So an average shift could have, an average patrol shift has, there's 13 frontline patrol vehicles. So each one of those runs about 16 hours a day. Those are the cars that we're trying to cycle out at about the 5 or 6 year mark. Should be doing it at the 4 year mark. We're doing it longer. We're spending more in maintenance. And then there are other vehicles, there are spare vehicles or administrative vehicles. Those we keep a lot longer. Some of those we keep 10, 11, 12 years. So primarily what you see us replacing are the frontline patrol vehicles.
Are we trying to purchase new SUVs, trucks, or Suburbans?
The Suburban isn't a police vehicle. We're not purchasing any trucks. We're purchasing SUVs. There are no sedans currently made for law enforcement service or available on any state bid list.
I just know that there is a truck running around out there, a Bellingham
We
truck.
do
That's
have
why I'm
2 trucks
asking.
in our fleet, and in 2023, they were the cheapest vehicle on the state bid list from Ford or Chevy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussion related to Article 16? Seeing none, it looks like we are ready to vote. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. We will again use the clickers. Please press green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 186 yes, 40 no. The motion passes, and Article 16 is adopted. Moving on to Article 17.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $30,793 for mobile lifts and approve Article 17 as set forth in the report and recommendations from the Finance Committee under said Article 17.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 17? Seeing none, it appears we are ready to vote. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. Please press green for yes and red for no. We will use the clickers. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 181 yes, 37 no. The motion passes, and Article 17 is adopted. Moving on to Article 18.
Article 18, appropriation of funds, sewage disposal systems, fuel storage tanks, and deadletting dwellings. Requires 2/3 vote. I move the town to vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 for the purpose of remediating failing residential subsurface sewage disposal systems, underground fuel storage tanks, and de-leading dwellings with dangerous levels of lead pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 111, Section 127B and a half, and Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 80, betterments, and to access betterments therefore, and further, to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $300,000 in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 7 or 8, or Chapter 111, Section 127B and a half of the general laws or any other enabling authority, and issue bonds or notes, therefore, under general laws, Chapter 111, 127B and a half, and/or Chapter 29C of the general laws and/or Massachusetts general laws, Chapter 80 betterments, or any other enabling authority. That although it is the town's intent that project and financing costs shall be repaid by the property owners in accordance with those agreements, such bonds or notes shall nevertheless be general obligations of the town, and the treasurer, with approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to Chapter 29C, and in connection therewith to enter into a financing agreement and/or security agreement with the trust with respect to such loan and for any federal and/or state aid available for the projects or for the financing thereof, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expand all funds available for the projects and to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out the projects.
I hear a motion and I heard a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 18? Seeing none, it looks like we are ready to vote. We will once again use the clickers. This motion, as indicated by Mr. Martinez, requires a 2/3 vote. Please press green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 177 yes, 44 no. The motion passes and Article 18 is adopted. Article 19.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to accept Sections 3 to 7, inclusive of Chapter 44B of the General Laws, otherwise known as the Massachusetts Community Preservation Act. The Act, with an annual surcharge of 1.5%, exemptions for the first $100,000 of taxable value of each residential, commercial, and industry property, and approve Article 19 as set forth in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee under said Article 19.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
I would like to recognize Mr. Chad Kelly and Mr. Doug Martin for a brief presentation related to this article.
Thank you. Real quick. So the Community Preservation Act was established in 2000 by the state of Massachusetts. It's a law that allows cities and towns to create a dedicated local fund for 3 buckets: open space protection and outdoor recreation, historic preservation, and community housing. So Chad and I had filed a citizens petition, which is Article 19, that asks, what we're doing is asking the members of town meeting tonight to vote yes on Article 19 to place the matter on the November 3rd, 2026 election ballot. If approved, it will establish a 1.5% surcharge on an annual real estate taxes, which equates, based on today's average home value, equates to an average cost of $72 per year. That surcharge, if passed in November, would start in fiscal '28. The most important thing I think that Chad and I feel about this fund is that it's matched by the state CPA trust. Funds from the state CPA trust come from every time that a house or property is sold within the town of Bellingham. There's a fee that's attached to that. That money goes into the CPA trust. Since 2000, we have lost out on all that money, and Chad will kind of go over how much that is.
Next slide, please. So Chad Kelly, just for me, this is really about not getting money that we've put into it. So if you look over 6 years, last 6 years, Bellingham has collected over $1 million. And again, as Doug said earlier, that is every time you do a land purchase through Norfolk County Deeds, you are charged, it's usually about a $50 charge. Last year, Bellingham collected $144,000. We got exactly $0 back from that by not being a community preservation group. Now, so you can see who did get that money. That's just a sampling of other towns over the last 6 years who have gotten that money. You can see local, and it really does depend on what they did for their percentage match. So I would like to keep that money in Bellingham if we could. Yes, with anything, I equate this to if you're going to put money in your retirement and you get a match, you take that match, right? We have to put some skin in it. Over the last 5 years or so, that match has been at about 24%. So, and you can use it for a variety of things. If you could, last slide. I'm not going to read those to you because we've been here for a while, and I appreciate that. I have school tomorrow. So you can see that we would have to spend that money on some of these items anyway, replacing a roof. If any of you've been, I've coached many sports here in Bellingham. If you've been on our fields and things, they need some help. But it also includes another bucket, which is two other buckets, which is historic and housing needs.
Thank you. We will now move to discussion. Are there any further discussion related to Article 19?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Can I speak from here?
Yeah, of course.
So the vote with the Finance Committee was 4-2, and I just wanted to clarify I was one of the no votes. While I do appreciate the commitment to the town and bringing this up, I just wanted to point out a couple concerns about the Community Preservation Act with the match. So again, it's based on the recording fees for the entire state, so that money doesn't change depending on who implements this, which towns. So when it was first implemented in 2002, there were 34 communities, and the match was 100%. Now that's 196, and the numbers are more like 18, 16%. And I don't believe there's a minimum, so that could continue to go down if more and more towns implement this. Unfortunately, I think the timing is it's not the right time in the year voting for an override. It would have been great to do this years ago. The other point I wanted to make is that within those three buckets, historic preservation, open space, and community housing, you have to put 10% into each of those buckets at a minimum, so there's not that full flexibility to determine how that money is used. 10% in any one of those, the money would just sit there, and based on the current finances with the town, we'd probably have to pay more to do a housing project, for example. We'd have to have other funding sources or bonding, or we'd just take a long time before we're able to really fund anything. And I know there's an income limit, but just with the override year, I know people have a lot of expenses. Everybody's utility bills have been high, and cost of living and medical bills. So again, I had concerns and just wanted to clarify my vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill in the back?
I would agree with the gentleman just said. That is what I was coming up for. I don't think this is the appropriate time to be asking for another increase when I think people see their actual increases after this 2.5% override goes through. If it goes through, it's going to be a shocker to them, and then to add another 1.5% on top of that, it's going to hit people real hard.
Thank you. In the front here?
Danielle Dolcinos, 261 Shirley Drive. I just want to ask a clarifying question that a yes vote tonight puts this on the November ballot and does not actually enact the CPA at this time. So we have plenty of time to have these discussions between now and the November vote if we vote yes tonight.
Yeah, yes, that is correct. Are there any more questions or discussion related to Article 19? Seeing none, we appear ready to vote. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. Again, we will use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 123 yes, 95 no. The motion passes and Article 19 is adopted. Moving on to Article 20.
I move the town vote to approve Article 20 as set forth in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee under said Article 20. Land donation, Freeman Street.
I hear a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 20? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. We will use the clickers once again. This motion requires a majority vote to pass. Green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 174 yeses, 25 noes. Motion passes and Article 20 is adopted. Next article.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to pass over Articles 21 and 22.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion related to passing over Article 21 and 22? Yes, in the back.
Jeremy, 1 Candlelight Lane. I know I just came up and asked the town administrator this little bit general of a question, but what's to say that we don't continue to push this? How are we going to hold the builder accountable to make sure that this doesn't just continue to get pushed on? Because the community that's been waiting for this has been waiting since about 10 years or so to get this actually to a public road. I know we've had some meetings. It was about 2 weeks ago. There's still a few things that Fafford has to handle for this to get approved. But what are we doing as far as accountability on the town and as far as pushing the builder and accountability to get this actually on a vote for November?
Yes, Mr. Layden.
Okay, so thank you for the question and for the people in the audience. This is something that we've had a number of meetings over a number of years trying to bring this project to completion. This has renewed attention and focus out of my office, and the select board has asked for regular updates so we can demonstrate progress to the residents that are within the development where everyone set expectations that the roads would be accepted as public roads. And that we are utilizing the expertise of engaged engineering professionals retained by the town, as well as legal counsel to guide us as we try to bring things finally to a head for being on the fall town meeting warrant.
Second question. Sorry, when you say legal counsel to help get guidance, can you elaborate actually what that means?
It means that from town staff and also the board, we engage legal counsel to advise us and to strategize as far as how to bring something to a completion. That town council, as well as our engineering team, is focused on resolving final issues and or taking necessary steps to finally put this to bed once and for all.
And is there anything the public can do to be a part of that legal counseling to hold Fafford accountable and help drive this forward quicker?
I think, because we've had various public meetings, continue to show up to public meetings, express concern, making sure that because we will have discussion about where we are on the select board's agendas. You can go to the town website to make sure that you receive notification of agendas, so you can keep an eye out for this, and then show up at public meetings to express support for resolving this finally.
Yeah, I know it's been a long night, but last but not least, is there any reason why this wouldn't be on a vote for November? Is there anything that could withhold this from getting it on the November approval?
Unfortunately, there are things that could keep it, but that is taking a worst case scenario, and I'm really focused on trying to get a positive outcome, but I can't promise anything, and yes, things could go drastically different, but that's why town council would be involved.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion related to Articles 21 and 22? Seeing none, it appears we are ready to vote. Again, this is a vote to pass over Article 21 and 22. This motion requires a majority vote. We will again use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Yes. Yes, that is correct. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 134 yeses, 43 noes, and Article 21 and 22 will be passed over. Article 23.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to amend the town zoning bylaws, Article 6, Section 240-32, terms defined by inserting the underlined language and deleting the strike-through language as set forth in the handout for Article 23.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there a recommendation from the planning board?
Recommended from the planning board.
There's a recommendation from the planning board. Is there any discussion related to Article 23? Yes.
So I noticed that there's some cross-offs and for the zoning bylaws. For instance, so does this mean that the family apartment is no longer going to be allowed in Bellingham? Anyone?
Yes, I'll recognize Mr. Devine, Chair of the Planning Board.
So the state law has been changed. So we used to have a situation that had family apartments. Now it's kind of fallen, and it's basically a situation that you can have ADUs and other types of things. So basically you're allowed to have those family
Even though you're
apartments.
taking it
We're
off the
taking it-
bylaws?
Yeah, we're taking it out of there because it's not applicable. It's from the state, and the state basically said
Okay.
we can't enforce it.
All right, thank you.
So.
Is there any other discussion for Article 23? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. This motion requires a 2/3 vote to pass. We will once again use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 138 yes, 19 no. The motion passes and Article 23 is adopted. Article 24.
I move the town vote to amend the town zoning bylaws, Article 5, Section 240-31, use regulations schedule by inserting the underlined language and deleting the strike-through language as set forth in the handout for Article 24.
There is a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the planning board?
Recommended by the planning board.
Thank you. Is there any discussion related to Article 24? Seeing none, it appears we are ready to vote. This motion requires a 2/3 vote. We will use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 132 yes, 11 no. The motion passes. Article 24 is adopted. Article 25.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to amend the town zoning bylaws by adding a new section, Article 31, Section 240 to 265, entitled Drive-Through Facilities, and set forth in the handout for Article 25.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Do we have a recommendation from the planning board?
Recommended by the planning board.
Is there any discussion related to Article 25? Seeing none, it appears we are ready to vote. This motion requires a 2/3 vote. We will use the clickers again. Please press green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 135 yes, 13 no. The motion passes. Article 25 is adopted. Article 26.
Article 26, Town Charter Amendment, Article 6, Section 2-1. This requires a majority vote. I move the town vote to approve Article 26 as set forth in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee under said Article 26.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 26? Yes, Ms. O'Neill?
Is this just a title change that we're doing? Can you explain this a little bit more?
Mr. Layden?
Sure. So within the charter, it specifies that the CFO shall serve as town accountant so that we can have more internal flexibility to make sure that we can operate the department, and if we need to restructure, have that flexibility. We're asking town meeting to approve making that shall to a may. So it becomes more passive. That's the only change.
So it's not creating any new positions down the road, another director or high-up person or anything like that?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion related to Article 26? Seeing none, it appears we're ready to vote. This is, again, a majority vote. We will use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Karen, we are ready. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 125 yes, 21 no. The motion passes. Article 26 is adopted. Article 27 was included in the consent calendar at the beginning, so we move on to Article 28.
I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $780,000 from free cash for the purpose of funding the Group Health Insurance Trust Fund.
I have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 28? Seeing none, it looks like we are ready to vote. This again requires a majority vote. We will use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting has expired. 114 yes, 38 no. The motion passes. Article 28 is adopted. 29.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $75,000 from free cash for the purpose of funding the Pension Retirement Reserve Trust Fund.
I hear a motion. Was there a second? Yes. And a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 29? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. This motion requires a majority vote. Please use the clicker, green for yes and red for no. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 120 yes, 29 no. Motion passes. Article 29 is adopted. Article 30.
Article 30, transfer to stabilization fund, requires a majority vote. I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $75,000 from free cash for the purpose of funding the stabilization fund.
I have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 30? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. This motion again requires a majority to pass. We will use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 120 yes, 30 no. The motion passes. Article 30 is adopted.
Mr. Moderator, may I have a minute, please?
Yes.
I would just like to recognize our dear sweet Ann Oberdashian, who this is her last town meeting as a select board member. She's given the town of Bellingham more than 30 years of dedicated service between select board, town clerk, school committee. I can go on and on and on. Tonight will be her last town meeting as a select board member. She's given this town a tremendous amount, and I would just like to say a sincere and genuine thank you from myself, but I would just like to all just thank Ann on her retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, and thank you, Ms. Odebashian, for your dedicated service to the town. Article 31 was included in the consent calendar, so we are on to Article 32.
I move the town vote to transfer from sewer retained earnings the sum of $12,582.08 for the payment of certain unpaid bills for the purposes and in the amounts as set forth in the report and recommendations of the Finance Committee under Article 32.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Recommended by the Finance Committee.
Is there any discussion related to Article 32? Seeing none, it appears we are ready to vote. This motion again requires a majority vote to pass. We will use the clickers, green for yes and red for no. Time for voting has begun. Time for voting is up. 129 yes, 17 no. The motion passes and the article is adopted. With that, we have now come to the end of our business for tonight. I want to thank you to the town administrator, town clerk, and our incredible IT personnel, as well as their staffs for all your preparations. I want to also thank everyone for your attendance and participation tonight. On your way out, please remember to return your clickers. And now I will invite a motion to dissolve this town meeting.
I'll make a motion
So
to
moved
adjourn.
and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you and have a good night.